Last week, the 4 chiefs who represent Agency 1 sent a letter to the town of Fort Frances offering to extend the lease for Point Park at fair market value. Now, this may have come to a surprise to a lot of people in the community who may have not realized that this year, May 1st, 2009, the lease for Point Park from Agency 1 is expiring.
But it's more complicated than that. Although both sides have maintained relative silence in the months and years leading up to May 1st, discussions on how the situation will be handled have been ongoing. While at this time we won't delve into these discussions, what we will focus on are some of the truths and misconceptions surrounding Agency 1 land. These facts are based largely on a study commissioned by the town in 1987 by Dr. Glenn Treftlin. One common misconception is that after the Rainy Lake Golf and Country Club ceased operations in the 1970s, the bands in control of Agency 1 land allowed the course to be overgrown and overrun. But in fact, even if the 4 bands looked at developing the property themselves, at the very least, they would need to go through the court system. The location is now classified as DIA, or Department of Indian Affairs, Dead Zone, meaning the Department of Indian Affairs, a federally ran department, doesn't fully understand the legalities behind the land and have decided that until further notice, no one is entitled to the land. The current battle involves a lease between the 4 First Nation bands and the town of Fort Frances for 35 acres of land, which the community commonly knows as Point Park. The lease expires this year and has been in effect for the last 99 years at the price of $35 a year. That's a total of $3,465 over the duration of the lease. What is interesting is the use of the term lease in this case. Most of us are familiar with leasing a vehicle, which involves paying a set amount of rent over a period of time, usually on a monthly basis. At the end of the term, the dealer, who owns the car, offers the customer the ability to buy out the vehicle at market value, or return it to the dealer. But there is a thought that the town may pursue and argue that the day in which the lease was signed between the parties, the land was turned into surrendered sold land, and after the expiration of the lease, the land would be handed over to the town. The issue got even more complicated, considering Shoreline, which had been surveyed then flooded, was involved with the agreement, which in turn would bring the province into the picture since they deal with Crown land. Also, the jurisdiction of the roads that access the point, Idlewild Drive and Couchiching First Nation, are also in question, as they are on Agency 1 land. As for the properties on Idlewild Drive, they appear to remain safe for the time being. All of the properties in question were once Agency 1 property, but were somehow sold to the town of Fort Frances while the property was being leased. All of this information, and much more, is contained in the 150-page report by Dr. Glenn Treftlin. This includes a final recommendation by Dr. Treftlin that the lease should be renegotiated between the town and the 4 First Nations to ensure the point services are continued to the community after the expiration of the lease. Likely, this won't be the last clip we have regarding the point. Although it's relatively quiet thus far, this land deal has received national attention, as a resolution from hundreds of First Nation communities was passed last year here at Point Park during the Numbers Treaty Gathering in support of the 4 bands governing Agency 1 land. Be sure to stay tuned to Fort Frances TV and the Fort Frances Times to give you the developments on this issue as we head to the expiration of the lease.